Originally in Spanish, 2020.
Speaking of energies reaching Earth, I found this. Intense electromagnetic disturbances of Earth's magnetosphere corroborate special information provided by multiple high-level sources about the current ascension of planet Earth. Data recorded during the period April 9th through 10th, 2020, showed a severe electromagnetic disturbance of Earth's shields that represents a precursor to the impending Betelgeuse supernova shockwave event. What do you think, Aneeka?
That what they say there is not happening. It's not going to explode imminently, and they're just using it to explain what they can't, which is these energy surges hitting the Earth. They think it's coming from Betelgeuse, because it's kind of further ahead than this solar system, so it looks like the wave is coming from that direction. But it is not the route or the cause of that wave, since they are completely unaware of the gravitational dynamics that make up galaxies like this. A galaxy spins like this. From the geometric center that is the engine of the toroid that composes it. The solar systems form the galaxy. They are the galaxy. And the galaxies move with the same process of equilibrium and gravitational influence dynamics as the rest of the astros that compose them, just on a larger and larger scale, but with the same principles. Thus, a galaxy will move according to the cluster of galaxies to which it belongs, and so on with the superclusters. Galaxy arms that you can see are the slow zones, because they contain what they call hard matter. But between the arms, there are more gravitationally shaped arms like gravity waves that themselves form the arms that contain stars, matter. So the energetic dynamics of a galaxy looks like in the image below, where the red and brown colors indicate low-frequency energy, and the blue and violet colors indicate high-frequency energy zones, also associated with existential densities. And this is ignored by all scientists who continue to propagate unsubstantiated matrix explanations.
Does a solar system move differently than a galaxy?
No, a solar system is contained within an arm of the galaxy, so it is a part of the arm and composes the arms. So when rotating, the arms move and block the solar systems inside each arm. But as they do move as in this GIF you shared with me. So what hits Earth, as the already misnamed positronic storms or space storms, are the high-energy arms, part of the same energy dynamics of the galaxy itself. What forms it? Since they contain no hard matter, they travel much faster than the rest of the visible arms. So they reach the arms with the matter and routinely hit them, as it has always been since the beginning of time.
Yes, but do those hits raise the frequency of Earth, and somehow weaken the magnetosphere and the Van Allen bands?
They temporarily raise the frequency of everything they hit as they pass, but then it goes down again, although in the case of the Earth, it is sustained a little higher each time as a consequence of the alterations to the collective consciousness of the area by the influence of the high-frequency, high-energy surges that are hitting the Van Allen bands that are progressively getting weaker and weaker.
Right, so this famous solar event is another distraction. And could it be possible that some solar flare enveloped Earth?
Again, nothing happens to the sun. It looks like it's coming from it because the surges are coming from that direction.
They say that it has no spots.
That is natural. It has nothing to do with surges. The sun gives solar wind. That's another thing. The solar wind changes with the activity of the spots. They do not understand that it is a living being with consciousness connected with others like itself. It has temperament. This N13 is very temperamental and very strong compared to Taygeta, for example. When it has no spots, then the transit of ships becomes difficult there, or even stops, because the spots are portals through which they pass. Although they open cyclically, and you can predict when they will open, because as every being with consciousness, the sun observes its own routines.
It is a living being. Okay. It has intelligence as we know it, and the Earth also has intelligence as we know it.
Not as we know it, in a different way, because it's a sun. Its consciousness is much more expanded, of very high densities, and it comprises the sum of multiple consciousnesses as with everything. Again, human science does not know this. A human being is the sum of the collective consciousness of the cells that compose it and associated microorganisms in symbiosis. And all human beings compose as cells, added with the consciousness of the other organisms, animals, and plants, the cells that compose the planetary consciousness of the Earth. And the Earth and the other planets compose, in part, that of the Sun. As a sum, thus, the consciousness add up to become a single unified collective universal consciousness, or the Source.
I understand. It's like me, for example. My body, I can't connect to a particular cell. I can't send it a message. I understand that. My body is a sun, and my cells are the inhabitants of one of the planets that are in my solar system.
Yes, you are connected, and yes, you communicate with all your cells all the time. Everything is intertwined.
It is a simile. Let me explain. The sun cannot communicate with me because of how big it is at that level of the consciousness, in the same way that I cannot communicate with a cell of my body.
Not like talking as you would expect, but it does communicate with you in other ways, but you don't understand it. But it does communicate with you and with everyone. Not by talking, though. Although it seems very subtle, it does have stronger consequences than just talking.
Can you communicate with the stars and the planets? Or is that just fantasy?
Not directly as you refer to communicate.
And a question in passing. What do the ships do to avoid being destroyed by the high frequencies of the black hole? I imagine it is when the ship enters through a black hole.
The mathematics of human physics is wrong. A black hole does not compress to the singularity. That compressing idea is only mathematically correct from the point of reference relative to the observer, as from outside the black hole. From inside, from a ship, it remains the same. A black hole has a toroid-like energy dynamics. It is a toroid, so it has a core, and as a definition, it is a wormhole. The problem is not whoever goes in there gets compressed. The problem is not knowing where it will take you.
Another conversation, 2021. What is a galaxy? It is the visible body with your interpretation, according to your level of consciousness of the body of a very advanced being.
Of a very advanced being that would have many numbers on the tape measure, which we talked about yesterday.
Exactly, many. Taking into account the number of beings that inhabit that galaxy and that compose that galaxy in mind and consciousness.
What a consciousness it must be that encompasses an entire galaxy, and the consciousness of the galaxy.
And there are bigger ones.
Being aware of being a galaxy has to be too much.
Yes, as your cells with their consciousness coming together in a common or collective field to form you.
How can you communicate with that consciousness? Is there any way?
I would say no, because the disparity is huge. Like a bacterium trying to converse with an elephant. There is no common point of reference with which to have a common framework with which to communicate a useful idea. I would say they just don't link. You could even see it as a problem of densities and frequencies. They do not correspond.
I understand. And what led to that consciousness to get there?
The incessant need to know that all conscious beings have.
Yes, but how can we get to that level? Or, as I understand it, we are already there because we are the whole? I am not sure if you understand me. It's just to bring a framework of understanding.
Yes, those concepts of how to get there, how long it took him to accumulate that, etc., are human concepts. It just is, and from its own point of view, that's the way it is and always has been.
I understand that later that consciousness will want to be something bigger because of the experience that it will bring. I say later to say something. I know that you cannot place time terms on a galaxy, although they say that there are galaxies that are absorbed by others.
Yes, and in human terms, it would take thousands, if not millions of years for them to come together.
So it wasn't so chaotic, I guess. Solar systems impacting against each other. I guess that would be integration, wouldn't it?
The energetic dynamics and movements are accommodated to the new parameters. It does not necessarily happen as a destructive collision, but rather they are incorporated in harmony. Another chat, originally in English, November 2020. Essentially, everything that ever was, be it known, remembered or not, every timeline possible, everything that happened and did not, contradictory things of the utmost complexity, they are all forming whatever you understand as the now. So whatever ever happened is influencing your now. And from your now, there is also an infinite branching off roads of possibility. So if you see this as a graph, you could represent it as an infinite amount of lines all converging into a funnel that forms one spot, one point, the now, whatever you are aware of and are experiencing. Yes, you, the observer. And from there, they branch out again to form the future lines, making your graphical representation of this to become one supermassive point in the so-called space-time. And that point is a singularity or point that is infinitely small and has an infinitely large mass. And that point is called a supermassive black hole. a point where everything converges into and from where everything emanates from. There is one in the center of every galaxy, and that's why it is there. Everything that is going on in that galaxy, everything each one of its billions upon billions of inhabitants ever experienced, converges there, in that one single point of supermassive attention awareness spot. I know it's a lot to take in for most humans. That is how everything works. Everything is convoluted. Everything is one mass, so everything always overlaps to create everything else. You are just not always aware of this. There is one what in the center of every galaxy? Supermassive black hole? Is it a conscious being? Yes, and that being is the galaxy. The spiral is its body, and the cells are the suns and planets there. And those have cells of their own, and so on and so forth. See it as the center of attention of the galaxy being its head. The being is the entire galaxy, and it also is only a cell in a larger formation, and that one in an even larger one. The super black hole is a head? The head of the galaxy, the attention awareness point. It's not really a head per se, but I'm using it for explanatory purposes. What is a black hole? A very large concentration of gravity. What is gravity? As I have explained before, it is a flow, a vector, a flux of consciousness itself, represented as a wave in the ether. It is consciousness itself. So, a black hole has to be a very large concentration of consciousness awareness. And how is that? Why is it? How did it form? As the union and concentration of all that has awareness and consciousness and is in concordance with its set of frequencies. I mean all things, all awareness that is part of a galaxy forms the galaxy itself, and it spins on an axis. And that axis is the center, the hub, the supermassive black hole. Again, toroidal energy. The center is the engine of a galactic torus, energetically speaking. Where is that black hole? In the very center, seen as a bright spot in the center of the galaxy. And how can the center of the galaxy be located? Geometrical shape. Yes, but what determines the shape? How do you know where the galaxy ends and what's beyond that? There are no lines, no boundaries, because everything is also forming everything else bigger than the first. A boundary is only one from one or another point of view. For this purpose, the galaxy would be what you see it is. Okay, I don't know enough about astrophysics to understand this, I think. I don't have base knowledge. You should have it. You've been talking to me for almost 3 years now. Okay, so what does it all have to do with timelines converging? The supermassive black hole is what is causing the galaxy to spiral, just as when you pull the plug in your bathtub. All timelines that exist for that being the galaxy, and for all beings that form that galaxy, for we form it as well. And who pulls the plug and what for? To exist, the galaxy does. It is its energy flow, its life force. What would happen if the galaxy decided not to spin anymore? It can't stop spinning unless something causes it not to spin, like a crash with another galaxy. It's happening now, where the energy of both combine to form an even larger one. They spin because they exist with harmonics that dictate that they are torus, as everything else is.
Why is it happening? What's happening?
Crashing! What a wreck! Many are colliding now, but I am not sure of the human nomenclature or name of them. But on one hand, it is a terrible disaster. On the other, it is how they form bigger ones. They are reproducing.
Have you traveled to that other galaxy? Is it possible?
No, I have not. But that does not stop me from knowing what is going on.
Is it possible to travel there?
Yes, it is.
What will be the result of them crashing? The effects on the population of Earth and other planets?
First, understand the immense size of each one of those galaxies. Newsflash. The Milky Way is colliding with M33 right now. So the crash is incredibly slow from your or our point of view and level of understanding. So they can crash all they want and you will never ever feel it, as it will take like several trillions years to finish crashing. But from the point of attention awareness of the galaxy being, it is quite dramatic and fast. Time is relative, you know. But it's not suffering, because this is how things work and how beings form another at that level of existence. They are not being destroyed. They are being nurtured, combined, fertilized, reproducing. So nothing to worry about. The effects on the population of Earth, of course it affects everyone. At all levels it does, but not as in a car wreck. It's a slow process from our point of view. But the energy is affecting us all.
Those waves supposedly hitting Earth are also coming from the center of the galaxy. Do they come from that massive black hole?
Of course, everything emanates from those black holes, or as the result of their influence.